In this video we're going to look at my favourite road in the Central West, the Bridle Track. We finished the previous day at Gulgong, where we left for the beautiful Hill End along Hill End Road via Hargraves. Unlike most that start from the Bathurst end, we're going to start from the Hill End side, heading down towards Bathurst. As you pass through the historic town of Hill End and the Royal Hotel, there wouldn't be 1 kilometre before you hit the Bridle Track, and this kilometre is on the Hill End sealed roads. And as you turn onto the Bridle Track, an advisory sign reads, 4-wheel drive only, no guardrail, steep edges, steep inclines, falling rocks, no trailers or caravans, creek crossings, floodways, flash flooding, narrow winding road and slippery when wet. Then Hawkins Hill sign says use extreme caution, lights on, 1 lane only, use passing bays, sound horn on bends, no stopping for any reason. And before you know it, you're on the dusty dirt single lane riding along the Bridle Track. Now this is the first time we'd ridden the track, and before long we're introduced to the first of very many speed humps. We really were amazed because we'd barely started riding, and here we are, cliffside edge, looking over into the valley. This particular time of the morning it was foggy, so we couldn't see all the way down. We're riding this nice steep descent. Had we started from the other end, we would have been eased in with 21 kilometres of a bitumen road, but from the Hill End side, as we're doing, you are straight into the beautiful riding of this amazing track. Now the Bridle Track was first established as a road between Bathurst and Hill End in the 1800s. In fact, in 1851, gold was discovered at the junction of the MACQUARIE and TURON rivers, and the quickest way to get from Bathurst was via horseback or even walking along this track that they initially put in. It's hard to believe today, in about the 1870s, Hill End peaked of about 7,000 people and its population had 5 schools and 28 hotels. Today in 2023 it's about 13 students in the school, 10 last year and 10 the year before. The track was named from the bridles from horses to go along this track, and in the mid-1900s the track was expanded to a scenic tourist route along the MACQUARIE River. We had plenty of fog to the left, so I thought I'd go over to this little space over on the right and have a look over the cliff, but decided it was not the right angle, so rode back on to chase after Tony. Today this is a popular 52-kilometre track with 4-wheel drivers and campers along the dozen reserves and 8 or so campsites along the full length. It's already reminding me of Snowy River Road and McKillop's Road with this cliff face to your left, single lane. We were lucky this was a midweek day, and cars weren't, or 4-wheel drives as well, were not in abundance. There was a couple for the whole trip. I wouldn't have liked to come across too many in the other direction because most of it is just that 1 lane wide. I really like these speed humps. They seem to add a bit of extra to the actual riding. The Bridle Track hasn't been in the news as much as it could have been, and a lot of that's got to do with in 2010, MONAGHAN'S BLUFF area was closed because of landslides, and in 2021 they decided to build a bypass around the landslides along the cliffside, and that took exactly 2 years to build, and it was this new section, and hence the entire Bridle Track was reopened in February this year. The TURON Crossing Reserve is the first camping area and toilet stop after Hill End, and it's only a few hundred metres before the TURON River crossing. We looked at a lot of videos of this creek crossing, and this side here is always muddy because four-wheel drives drive through and bring water with them. The water level of this causeway crossing was really low, and we'd seen videos where it was much higher, but the problem when it's high is the strength of the water flow when you actually do the cross. Still enjoying the ride along the Turon River, but getting closer to where it joins the Macquarie. This section of the ride, and in fact virtually all of the ride, reminds me of riding the Barry Way, which goes along the Snowy River. In fact, this ride is probably nicer than Barry Way ride. I'm just pretty impressed by it all. I know some people think it's not rough enough because the entire road had been regraded since the opening back in February. The weather forecast was good, blue skies, sunny day. We just had to wait for this fog, low-lying fog and clouds to burn up a bit. We knew it was going to come out okay, but we were riding through about 9:30, so it's possibly a little earlier for this end. Now this is one of the reserves. This one's the Mary Flynn Reserve, the first one that you reach after the river crossing, and a few kangaroos or probably wallabies over to the left. They were the only ones that we saw on the entire road or track, and this dirt section is about 31-32 kilometres long. And for a short while you start riding a little bit away from the Turon River, and the fog in this area had dropped down, and then beautiful cutout. Looks like they did a little bit of this extra work for the reopening as well when they did the grading, so that was nice to ride through. And then you're winding back down towards the river, but this time when you meet the river, it'll be the Macquarie River, because the Turon River flows into the Macquarie River. And here's the Macquarie River now on our right hand side and just over the cliff. So once again, very much like Barry Way, but now we're on the Macquarie River. The riding is so picturesque. With the mountains in front of you, the fog made it even more picturesque, and riding along the water's edge. The majority of the trip so far has been downhill, so obviously if we did start from the Bathurst side, we would have a lot more uphill riding. You should notice the road down to the bottom there on the right, going back to the river. That's Root Hog Road, and it's a river crossing, which is a deeper river crossing on pebbles, rocks. So if you are looking for a bit more of a challenge, that's the way to go. Take on that river crossing there and you'll love the challenge. And here's some free advice. Ride out front, don't ride second, because you just get covered in dust. But the Root Hog Road crossing and the Macquarie River area was absolutely stunning. The water's a little deeper there as well, but it is a challenging ride if you want to go across. You can see by now the fog's all lifted, all been burnt up, and the sky is looking beautiful, nice and blue. We do see a few campers along the way, not many. This particular spot here is called the RANDWICK Hole Reserve, and again that's where more camping can take place on the Macquarie River. I really loved this section of the road. It was great scenery and didn't have that extra dust on it. Although the road is mostly narrow, you will note there are some wider sections that even two four-wheel drives could go past one another. Now, one of the things I would probably recommend is you wouldn't do this ride if it was raining, because I imagine this road would be very, very slippery when wet. We were nearing MONAGHAN'S Bluff, and the river was looking rather stunning, so we thought we'd just pull over and take a photo. It's a nice reflection on the water, and then we would move on, because the MONAGHAN'S bluff was going to be a steep climb. This is the bypass of the area that actually had the landslides. There's no doubt that the MONAGHAN'S bluff area, this is the new section which took 2 years to build, is the widest part of the bridle track, and it's definitely the dustiest part of the bridle track, and it has some stunning views over the valley, and it is very steep. You can't tell how steep it is with GoPro footage, but you start off climbing very steep, and here comes a four-wheel drive the other way. He was flying down the hill, slowed down a bit for the corner, and yes, take the dust, thank you. And yeah, so climbing not for too long, because as I mentioned before, most of this direction you're traveling downhill, so we do a little bit of uphill and very steep downhill once you reach the top. And look at that view, and I'll ride over to have a look at the view. Now this bypass is 2 or 3 kilometres long and features a number of switchbacks, and that's switchbacks on the climb and switchbacks heading down as well. This area here, some of it's got guardrails, this area here doesn't. It's not a steep cliff drop here, but you still don't want to go over. Reaching the pinnacle, beautiful scenery out ahead, and then start the decline down with the switchbacks. Yeah, when riding this, I was thinking to myself that it would have been good if a week or a couple of days earlier they did get some heavy rain through here, washed the top of this, all this dirt or soil off. You can see the creek, well that's actually the Macquarie River over to the left there. So we'll be heading down to that Macquarie River. That's where we're heading towards. In making this bypass, they didn't muck around. They've really made one heck of a road. I think this was about the second car, maybe the third that we saw on the entire trip, and it would have been the last one. I can't remember seeing another one after it. And they just stopped and obviously took a few photos over the rail. And there's the Macquarie River that we're heading down towards. So it's a long way down, so it's pretty steep. Now we're heading from left to right, and you can see the old MONAGHAN'S bluff down the bottom, and we're heading down to that on this road up the top. And again, you can see they've done amazing work to cut this into the mountain, but they've made it so wide as well. It's easily the widest part of the entire bridle track. Now you may notice down the bottom on the right there was a right hand part of the road extending, which has all been closed off, which was the old bridle track, much lower than that bypass that had been created. One of the real features of the bridle track is that this beautiful scenery isn't just for part of it, it's actually for most of the trip, and mainly because you're going along the river's edge for most of the trip too. But there's yet another one of the many other campsites as well. But we certainly are now back on the narrow track, which most of it is, and you do have to be careful coming around some of the corners that you don't have a big car or four-wheel drive coming around. Yeah, I'd definitely put this ride on the highly recommended and must-do list. As it does a few times, the bridle track moves away from the Macquarie River, and some of it's not as perfectly smooth as the rest of it, but most of this has been, as I said, graded for, I think, for the February reopening, and you get to this sign which is the other direction sign, which I thought was the end of the dirt section, but we stopped to have a look and it's the exact same sign that you see at the hill end going through the advisory before proceeding, and the gravel dirt section continues a little bit further inland, however, but it's pretty nice riding. Yeah, riding along at this stage, you keep on thinking, okay, the bridle track's finished. You're just expecting it to be, the ride's virtually over. Where's the bitumen? When's the bitumen going to start? So it goes for a few more kilometres, and it's as if the ride's coming to an end, with probably because you've left the Macquarie River, but the scenery is still amazing, looking at those rolling mountains, and the riding conditions are still very easy. You now had to chase Tony down. She got a little bit in front when we stopped before. When you reach the Box Ridge Road turn off to the left, you know the bitumen's just about to start a couple of 100 metres in front of it. Now, Box Ridge Road also takes you to Turondale, and it meets Turondale on the Turondale Road. Now, the bitumen starts off pretty good quality, and it's a really good ride as well, so this was quite enjoyable to be sitting down and just enjoying some country riding on bitumen as well. 21 kilometres to the T intersection of DURAMANA Road and Turondale Road. Now at the T intersection, you can take a left to Sofala or Hill End, or you can do what we're doing and do the right, which will take you to Bathurst. As you come over the crest of the hill, you can see the outskirts of Bathurst.